And we're live! Right.
I'm exhausted.
Are you exhausted?
Why?
I've been doing Julie's dishes all week.
One plate you took
and
to
buying
the
our lunches all week.
dishwasher. Well, I've been busy.
Yeah, with a dog. There's a dog in the office.
Why are you so bitter about my dog?
I'm not bitter.
He feels for you.
But you owe me about 15 quid.
I tried to give you it yesterday. You wouldn't take any money.
You heard it here
I even
first.
told you anyway. It's not my dog. So I'm dog sitting this week. He's been very good.
He has been very good.
Anyway, if we hear some barking in the background, it's just Kilo dog. But he'll be fine.
That's good.
So anyway, is that the extent of the pre-pod
I think
this week?
I've not got any bad. I just really want to get into what Chris is going to talk about today, because I'm very excited. I mean,
why is it always me?
It's not why is it always you, Chris? That's a question. It's not always you. It's a good topic, and you're there. So, but anyway, let's go. Welcome to the Good Roundup. Good is a brand consultancy. We're based in the United Kingdom, and from time to time, myself and my colleagues, Mr. Chris Lumsden,
hello, and
Ms. Julie Murdoch,
hello,
we get together and we just like to talk about the branding stuff, really, and just kind of have a wee chat about it and just see what's going on. And today, as I say, and I'm not lying, unlike the last one, which I thought was a terrible article, but not a terrible article. It was a bit boring about brand workshops, but actually was fascinating. This one for me actually.
Fascinating is maybe a bit of a stretch.
No, I was mildly surprised at how interesting it was. And then this one though, when Chris mentioned it, I went, now we're cooking with gas. And so Chris.
It's another nice short one though, isn't it?
It's another nice, a wee in and outy. But let's not leave our listeners hanging in suspense for much longer. Chris, what is it we're going to talk about today?
I wrote an article in November, so it betrays the fact we've got nothing really new to talk about, but it was about, I went to a research group, and the article was called Why the Status Quo is the Real Competition.
Oh.
So insightful.
Yeah.
There's a number of things that happened, but it kind of all ended up.
And this was on the back of you being present at a bit of customer research, wasn't it?
And it's always great to be at these sessions because you always learn something, or something always slaps you in the face to go get out of the office and hear.
Takes us out of our little idealistic brand bubble. And
the point was that, it's always, as I've just said, insightful to hear people talk about stuff from the mundanity of everyday life rather than the rarefied atmosphere of a boardroom. So it was interesting. And so I can burst right into it and tell you all about it. But
go.
So I went to this group and we were working for a client. It's a service brand. I'm not going to say who it is. And it's great. The client's great and the work's great and we love it. And we had this new, in the boardroom, it ticked all the boxes. It's all ready to go in terms of proposition and we'd done all the homework. So we were looking to just fine tune some aspects. We wanted to get the consumer view, which I think was good because, actually the way it stood, we probably didn't need to. Or there was a feeling that we may not have needed to. But everything in the proposition and the service researched well. But, in listening to what was said and reading between the lines, you do begin to understand and see that there is a real difference between the kind of, as I say, the sterility and the kind of rational world of the boardroom and then the real emotional reality of what's happening for the customer in the real world. And it just lays it bare and exposes it for you, and you can choose to see it or not, Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So, although, as I say, although the proposition researched well and people said that it was interesting, it was also slightly disappointing in that there wasn't a massive clamour to say, oh yeah, I would definitely go through the pain that I know I need to go through to make that a reality, because the service was, we all know in our everyday lives. I mean, I've just tried to change my Apple ID password.
We've all been passengers on that journey, haven't we?
But what we tend to do is underclub and underestimate the friction, the customer friction, and overestimate the upside. And I think consumers don't do that. We ought not, you know what I mean?
And I think
the effort.
Yeah, and also I think layered onto that is the fact that we can come from a position of assuming that a customer is looking for change, whereas you have to be pretty even if the new proposition is markedly different and better, you still have to be in a pretty unhappy position with your current provider to
Yes.
be willing to take on all of that risk of change and what
Yes.
that looks like. So it's
And so that's why the article, I think, which is nicely after that intro framing it, is why status quo is the real competition as opposed to
other
another bank
providers.
or
Yeah.
another whatever. It's
And
not.
you said something just before we came live, which was that the customer isn't interested in the competition, and we do that all the time for our clients, and I think clients do as well. They're overly interested in the competitive set rather than the status quo.
Yeah.
Well, and they also, again, this was to Stuart's point, and we've seen it a lot, I would say, but probably just because we've seen it, I've seen it more in the space in terms of B2B, lots of kind of tends to be product led, often tech organizations where the nuance in terms of features that differentiate one offer or one product from another is something that the product teams live day to day. But from a consumer point of view or from a customer point of view, it's, they don't know. And
there's that inertia. And in B2B tech.
I know that, we know that competitor X doesn't do that and our product does this. But, from a customer point of view, the knowledge around that is so limited.
Yeah, the customer has no information of state of the art. So we've sat there, Gillian, we'll show them a competitor set and it looks great. And then the client will go, but the thing is with them is that they do it with a widget that's blue and we do it with a widget that's red. So blue is actually not as good as red.
So they shouldn't be there.
And so that shouldn't be there. And I go, but that's not from a customer perspective. A, do they care? And B, they don't have that insight that you do. So that doesn't really matter. So I think
if you need to get to page 18 on the website to figure it out, then you're lost, aren't you?
But and these things aren't earth shattering, but it does always kind of sober you up from the world that we work in. There's that previous example of everyone kind of knows, I think, about you're more likely to get divorced than change your bank account. That came out a wee while ago. And that, I think, is a perfect example of the inertia that keeps people in the status quo, because you just can't be arsed.
I did actually change my bank account, so maybe I'm all right on the divorce
maybe I'm not getting mad. Yeah, but the divorce. But the effort, the point is, the negative energy that has to go into doing that,
making a significant
it's just not worth it.
Well, I mean, I've changed my bank account, but the pain I was getting from my current bank was so bad that the balance was kind of going, well, I don't know how difficult this is going to be, but it can't be as hard as
can't be any worse.
The pain I've got with these guys. So I mean, it really is. You're just maybe knocking it back to next month and everything. But I mean, it is painful, and I think also the status quo is very, very powerful because it's like 38% of all B2B transactions result in zero and nothing happening because it's too hard and
there's more complexity. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of, and it's a bigger spend and there's more ego on the line because if you fuck it up, you're going to get
the risk attached.
There's a lot of things in there.
So do you think it's fair to say that many brands and potentially clients underestimate the customer friction and inertia and what actually they have to do to change?
I think it's easier to look at the competition and see what they're doing and use that as a proxy for customer research. To kind of go,
that's interesting.
They're kind of going, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. They're only talking about this, so that's obviously
therefore
what's working.
We need to do that.
Yeah, we need to do that because that's obviously because they've probably done the research that we have not. Sometimes is the thing, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. They're probably just as daft as you are.
Yeah, there's that inside out bias, isn't there? About we know what our customers want.
Yeah.
And without really knowing.
Yeah, without really knowing. Without actually kind of working out what, Julie and I have been doing work on this, what is the competitive set? And it's usually not a competitor. It's usually something that they've already got.
You did it recently. Tell us about that one, which was, it wasn't anything, it was...
I mean, the cliche is when you look at the generalization on positioning, it's kind of like the competitor set is not a competitor. It's something like Excel. That's what you're beating.
Or pen and paper.
Or pen and paper. That's what you're trying to beat. That's the status quo. It's not, and it's usually not. It's actually, they've got a system that works that may, when you get the customer to describe it, sound insane.
Yeah.
Because it's there, but actually for all, it's just too painful to think about moving on to something else.
I'm sure that happens with some products like Salesforce.
We had it with Paprika.
With Paprika,
yeah.
Awful. And then we incurred a huge amount of cost to take it out because the pain wasn't worth it.
I know,
but I think, remember, it was your fault.
We
still hold it against you.
Yeah.
But I think, and we, going way back to the relatively early days of the smart home, remember remember we had this conversation with a client who was launching a new connected thermostat. And again, it was the same, you get so wrapped up in looking at the nests of the the hive, all the competitors, in inverted commas, whereas the competition at that point was a standard programmable thermostat that most people had installed. It's like, why would I take out, you remember Stuart making this point to the client, why would a customer risk taking out something that works absolutely fine and does his job and has limited maintenance and upkeep for something that is much more complicated, might break, that there's security risks around, there's lots, and it's that kind of, yeah.
And when you think about it that way, you go, of course they wouldn't.
Why would, you would have to be, or in a very different, you have to be at the far end of that adoption
sometimes
spectrum.
we leave our brains at the door when we come to work in marketing, don't we? It's weird. You just forget about the consumer.
It's the challenge of bursting out your framework, because it's quick go-tos and everything else, and it's actually trying to look at it in a different way. So, for example, I'm talking to somebody just now, and they said to me, "Look, there's a really good group in Facebook of people that use our product." I went, "That's the last people I want to talk to."
There's something wrong with these people.
I don't want to talk to. They are not. I want to talk to the 99.99% of people who are not using their product. I said there might be something interesting in there.
Enthusiasts.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to them because they're the cream,
the exception,
and it's the 99.9%. But to be fair to the client, went, yeah, no, we get that. But they're just excited to see people engage with the product, whereas I'm more excited about the people that are not engaging. Why are they not moving on? Why are they not taking this? So, and competitive sets, especially now, is easy because you just go onto websites and go, they're saying this and they're saying, so it's actually quite easy to do that.
So what we're saying is that clients and brands should spend a bit more time really digging into the reality for the customer and understanding the customer and their world rather than the competitor set. Right?
And I think, and this is a little bit of a kind of a side or a segue, I suppose, into, but I think, and we touched on this earlier, there's a Gartner survey of, I think it was about 750 B2B organizations, and they were basically looking at different organizational buyer types. And it's that point about 38% of B2B purchases ending in no decision. And the point of the article, or point of the survey, was saying that, something like 94% of B2B purchases are made during organizational change. So the ability to implement a new solution or whatever ultimately comes down to that organization's attitude toward change and the risk associated with it and timing. So there's a broader piece that talks about kind of personas and the mistake that marketeers make looking at focusing on individual personas versus how does that organization behave. So they talk about organizations with very fixed systems and structures versus those at the other end of the spectrum who have an appetite for change that's backed very much by resource commitments to make that. So the kind of ability to move away from the status quo depends largely on how that organization views change, their appetite for innovation, their willingness to take risk, who's involved in the decision-making process.
And when you think about it, there's a lot that needs to come together for that to happen.
Yeah, particularly with B2B purchases, which tend to be much more significant and complex, often capital investments or whatever. The risk and decision-making attached to that is often huge.
The mistake we made is to oversimplify that transactional process.
Well, I mean, when we do any kind of customer journey work, the first question we ask is, tell me about the day you decided to change X. And the answer is never, well, we got a competitor set. It's never that. Yeah. It's always a problem. It's a problem that they need to change to solve, and that's where it comes from. And competitor set, in theory, when they decide to go online and Google stuff, is quite far down the line. It's not. It's not the first thing they do, because there's got to be. They're looking for alternatives. They're looking for things to plug gaps. They're looking for.
Yeah, they don't care.
No, it's not. It's not the. We saw a bunch of competitors to the company. We thought it would be interesting. They're either pissed off or something's broken.
It's a good starting point. Consumers basically don't give a shit about
customers,
brands or anything.
Well, and I think it's off in the B2B space. It may not be anything to do with the fact that you're not happy with the status quo. It could be to do with a change in operations or regulation or something else that's driving a need to kind of look at a new solution rather than, like you say, I'm not happy with what I've got, and so what are the alternatives?
Yeah, and I think, brands have got to kind of understand that we play a very small part in a customer's thing, and we may as well try and make it count. And it's trying to get to that point about what does make it count mean, and is it adding value or being clear or helping or being useful is really where you're going to be. Rather, that will help change the status quo rather than just kind of a bit of hand waving and we're here and we're amazing, we're brilliant. So, yeah.
Cool.
That's it.
So basically, if we're doing some research, let's always look at what the status quo is, as
Rather
well
than
as what the competition is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a very nice and
very
simple
short.
takeaway.
Listen,
Quick
man,
one.
I'm in for the wee snacks. I mean, I'm a snacking kind of guy. Snack.
A little pod snack.
I like a pod snack. I like the word snack.
Shorts.
Snacky snack.
That and the guys who are editing the podcast will like it a lot when I go snack, because that. Well,
Oh, they don't like the pop. What do they call it?
I don't know. Their job.
Their job. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, boys.
Right.
Anyway, thanks.
Well, that was fun. And
was it.
Kilo Dog didn't bark once.
No dog interruptions.
Well done, Kilo.
He's
Dog.
asleep.
Well done, Kilo. All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for that. See you
that.
soon.
Next time.
Bye.